African countries will be in South Africa next year to attend a conference on the implications and impact of the fourth industrial revolution in education and media. Dr. Jony Mak, who is the president of the Jony Mak Group, and Dr. David Molapo, the president of ICANN 4IR, join me now in studio to talk a little bit about this conference. Gents, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, I'm not even sure where to start. Let me start with you, Dave, because we go back a long way. So 28 countries are coming in. Perhaps you can just start by unpacking what it is that you've been trying to do that's really got you to this point.
Most of the people who know me, they know I'm a maths and science teacher. And for many years, I've always promoted STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths. And I have been concerned in that we as parents also are pushing our children to go to universities. And the last couple of years, studies and research has shown us that the careers of the future are going to be in the area of science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So when the so-called Fourth Industrial Revolution now became a flavor of the month, we piggyback on that. We launched it in South Africa, last year with SADC, so next year, 28 African countries. We want to zero in on the implications of education. Bottom line, our educational system is not preparing our young people for the job market. The careers of the future now are demanding and needing some of our students who are ill-prepared. The universities are becoming irrelevant. We are educating our young people to be unemployed. So what we have done then, we have partnered, example, with people like Zallywood International Production, under the leadership of Dr. Victor Pume. And then we have brought in people like Dr. Jony Mak, because even within this fourth industrial revolution, there are life skills that are still needed. Emotional intelligence, problem-solving skills, non-violence. Hence, we are bringing all these wonderful ministers of education, SRC leaders, civic societies, from the September 2nd to the 5th to this beautiful country, South Africa.
Right, sounds very exciting. So when he picked up the phone and says, Dr. Jony, we got to talk, man. I'm just wondering, you've spent time at the Dr. Martin Luther King Center. I know that you continue to work with Martin Luther King III. And so violence, non-violence, peace, this is something that you know well. I know you studied that even as well. So what was it about this that you felt you had to be a part of?
Well, you know, the fourth industrial revolution suggests something important. It suggests change. And the question is, how do we respond to change? It's one of the things that was fundamental to what we might call Dr. King's logic of nonviolence, being able to respond positively to change in a peaceful, nonviolent way. This is exceedingly important to this organization, to this project, to this program. Dr. Molapo understands that well, and it's one of the reasons why I'm certain he called me. How do we respond to the rapid change that technology has brought us? What are the skill sets that are needed? And remember now, we're not only talking about formal education, we're also talking about informal education. And that brings in the family and civil society. All of these are part and parcel of the whole fabric of the logic of nonviolence. And that's what we think we can bring to this exciting project.
All right, so the United States, we see it as a developed nation, first world, if we might even call it. How are they grappling with this whole preparing for 4IR and teaching people to be ready for 4IR?
It's a very good question. The wonderful thing again about this is the world is learning together. We are all, it's one of the things that very often we think that parts of Africa is behind the curve. In this new technology, it puts us all level. Preparing now, even in the US, we don't have the curricula that's necessary. And so we can learn together, we have something to share for each other, and so, or with each other. And so we'll be bringing talent from the US and talent from Africa to the US. So we're learning together. It's not that we have the answer and we'll give it to the world. We'll learn it together.
All right, so we come back to Africa now. And one of the beautiful things about being behind the curve sometimes has been that we've been able to jump some of these hoops that the developed nations have had, and literally gone from first to third and to fourth, whatever. But one of the challenges that we have on the continent is that we are unequally developed. We're talking about smartphones. Some people are still on simple phones. Some people don't even have power. How do you bring all of these countries together to talk about this very futuristic and very power-generating kind of technology? And some of them are basically just trying to keep lights on.
The beautiful part about this challenge is that, remember, challenges will also create innovation. So it is amazing what Africa has developed to meet this challenge of the fourth industrial revolution. We thank God for the global content. But how do we take this global content and contextualize it for a daughter and a son in the rural area so that they can have same educational advantages like any kid in Sente and whatever? So while the challenges are there, I'm encouraged to travel all over the continent to see how creative people are. You mentioned the word leapfrogging, and that's the plus that we have. We do not have the time to entertain old technologies like those in the United States. So now with 5G coming, hopefully the government will give us more spectrum. We can be able to do a lot of things. Because with our young people, all they want, forget the food. They say, give me data. All these things shall be added unto me, but give me data. And when we have this data now, hopefully next couple of weeks, months, data will now be available. Some cities, some municipalities are now giving technology for free, even in the midst of all the challenges of electricity, infrastructure, but the pockets of excellence are there, and we need to maximize on what we already have.
So whilst we're still on the continent, one of the things that I've seen and I've started to experience more and more is that you hear the statistics, but I see it now, that this is a very young continent, that the average age of the African citizen is 19, I'm told. And I'm glad that you've got these education ministers and these decision makers. But is it not sometimes those very same people that get in the way of allowing these young people to do what they do?
Peter, everything falls and rises on leadership. And I know that some of them are BBT, born before technology, there's technophobia, but it is important, instead of imposing, but to propose. Because if these ministers of education, these curriculum specialists don't change, fourth industrial revolution is here to disrupt. A lot of our young people will no longer need formal education. They can now download stuff and teach themselves. Isn't that the way of the future? Where now we only need facilitators. So if we are not proactive, we'll end up being reactive and inactive and end up being radioactive. So we're avoiding that. So these kind of conferences is us coming together to see what can we do. While we understand the systems of education are there, we need to disrupt it from ECD, early childhood development, so that we can use and utilize the skills of our unemployed graduate, retired educators, so that these churches, these mosques that are sitting doing nothing, let's maximize them. The schools that only end up at 3 o'clock, why don't we start sending the very same schools, use them from 4 o'clock, because the technology is already here.
All right, so and that's technology, and I think young people understand that, but the thing that they don't have is having lived a long time, and with that comes a wisdom of living. And I wonder if that is something else that kind of needs to be put on the table, that yes, it's all very well to have this 4IR and fancy ways of doing things, but also there is a way to deal with things and a wisdom that's required.
It is indeed. There's a saying, we are what we are today because of what happened yesterday. And until we have the necessary confrontation with yesterday, our tomorrows will forever be the same. And what we can offer the generations that's coming behind us are the lessons that we've learned, so that they are not repeated. Now, that's a saying that gets tired, but we have to find new ways of defining and explaining those mistakes that we made and building on them. And I think that's part of what is intended in bringing this conference together, providing a clear path and the leadership and the vision that this new idea brings.
So when this conference happens, at the end of it, for you to look back and say it's been a success, what would have happened? 3 Ps.
The first P is preparation. Got to prepare the mindset of the people. 30% will actually be theory, 70% will be practical, hands-on. The second P is proclamation. From here, what are 2 or 3 things that you can start? I said ECD, not disrupting a lot of things, early childhood development. Fortunately, in South Africa, through the TVET colleges, everyone now is talking about how can we now enable our TVET students and learners so that they can be relevant and be entrepreneurial in their thinking. Then the third P is preservation. Peter, I don't like events, if you know anything about me. There must be 3 or 4 things practically where we are challenging these ministers of education, just like climate change. What can we do starting the next day, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? And the good part is they will leave with some concrete stuff, 30, 60, 90, 180 days, so that we can start implementing some of these things in the various countries.
Dr. Jony, what would be the magical thing that comes out of this for you?
The magical thing is a shared vision, a unity around that vision, and the commitment to see it through. Building within the cadre. Remember now, we're bringing a select group from 28 countries. If we can develop a unified vision and a shared commitment to that vision, we can carry it out.
How do you get these decision makers, these education people? Because again, we've sat on these things together. You have a conference for 2 days and they say, yes, colleagues, this is great. They go back and then they get stuck in the politics of whatever it is that's going on in their countries. And they forget the promises that they made at these conferences. How do we get them over the line?
Peter, it's all about relationships. We are sick and tired of the talk shows. We have seen it, done it, that's why I said it can be once off. During the preparation phase between January and July, we are with the people. So we're already starting the process. We're doing train the trainer programs, skills development. Remember, during the 4th Industrial Revolution, we are rewarded not based on our bills, but based on our skills. So we also need to skill the people, do the train the trainer program, so that this is kind of like a nice inspirational exposure things. Because remember, when you expose people, they can then expect greater things. So it is the whole thing of keeping the momentum by duplicating ourselves. As the elders, we now need to pass the baton to the next generation so that they can do better than us. And when you keep the momentum, you don't wait for another conference, conference. They get inspired, and we visit all of those 28 countries. So really, it's family coming together. What lessons have we learned? What can we tweak? What is relevant for us? What is not relevant for us? What can we learn? And at the end of the day, it's all about improving Africa. This concept of having the dark continent must fall. Hashtag the dark continent must fall. Hashtag.
Amen. All right. So we want these decision makers who can sign the things to do things and take action. But what if they don't? And they're unwilling or they're lethargic. You've studied, Dr. King, and activism. How can young people agitate for change without destroying things in the process?
Well, I can't quote the saying exactly, but there's this idea of leaders saying, "There go my people. I must run and catch up and lead them." If we think young people are going to wait for us, we're sadly mistaken. They're already doing creative things. What we can do is, again, create the platform for them to excel and exceed. Much of what happens at this conference, some of us won't even be around to fully enjoy, understand, and appreciate. But we can create the platform and create the opportunities for young people to take advantage of, to build on, and to succeed.
All right, final thought?
Well, I can, you can, together we can. Let's keep hope alive and let's not give up. The future belongs to the young people. I'm excited, I'm optimistic, and I believe if each and every one of us will just make a meaningful contribution to change our space wherever we are, I believe there is hope for this wonderful continent, Africa.
All right, I'm going to ambush you a little bit with the final question, because you worked at the Martin Luther King Center, and you know what Martin Luther King fought for, the America that he fought for, and I dare say the world. And I just wonder, with the kind of politics that you're seeing in America at this time, what would he be thinking? And there's an election on the horizon, and we look at it from the outside looking in, and we wonder, actually sometimes, what's going on.
Indeed. Well, of course, I can't speak for Dr. King. I don't know what he might say. I do know what he fought for. And King called for a revolution of values. What did he mean by that? those fundamental values were values of dignity, the value of liberty, and the value of solidarity. And he would be, I believe, greatly disappointed in not so much what we see in the leadership, but what we see in the people. Are we willing to make the necessary change? It was Gandhi who said, be the change, and we can, and we will be the change.
All right, gentlemen, thanks very much indeed. We certainly look forward to having this conversation again next year as the conference gets underway, but it looks like it's going to be quite a thing.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you
for
very
the
much, Peter.
opportunity.
It's a
Dr.
pleasure.
David, Dr. Jony, thanks so
pleasure.
much
Thank you, Peter.
for your time. All right, okay, that's a fascinating chat. And don't forget, you can watch this again on our YouTube channel a little bit later on and spread the word. This is something you need to pay attention to.